Thank you so much, ma'am. Really appreciate that you're taking out time for NDTV for this special interview. Let me begin by asking you, what are the top priorities of the new caretaker government right now?
Thank you for inviting me and for the opportunity to speak to you about our work in Bangladesh today. Well, first of all, the priority is to bring back law and order, create conditions that would enable us to establish what we ultimately hope is to create conditions for eventually a proper democratic election. So our priority would be creating conditions of good governance and bringing back normalcy.
So what is being done to bring back normalcy in Bangladesh? What's being done to restore law and order there?
Well, when you ask about normalcy, I wonder what normalcy is, because we've been living in a condition for the past decade, which many countries in the world would not call a normal condition. And in the past months, certainly not. Killing hundreds of children, injuring thousands is not a condition where one can say it's normalcy. So it is returning to normalcy is actually returning to simply normal life. And right now, I think what Bangladesh has proved is its ability to, its core strength lies in the ability to heal the wounds. And, historically, we have experienced again and again movements centered around students. And this was absolutely historic. And look at the floods right now. If you look at the floods right now, what's happening? We've got collective action. We've got the army out there. We've got the students out there. We've got the women's groups out there. We've got everybody, the communities out there, and we're all working together. And I think what Bangladesh has in its ability is the way it brings the whole nation together. And for us at this moment, that is what we would say, struggling back to creating, going back to normalcy, if you call that normalcy. So rebuilding the nation is our normalcy right now. So we are rebuilding. I would like to emphasize on that fact that this whole movement has actually brought the whole nation together, and that's our normalcy.
Ma'am, so you spoke about floods. What's being done to mitigate the plight of flood victims? I believe 10 districts and around 3.6 million people are affected in Bangladesh right now because of floods.
Well, this has been one of the worst floods that we've witnessed in recent history. And what this flood has done is similar to what this movement has done. It has brought the whole nation together. And right now, we have geared fully towards helping the people there. First of all, we have to save what we can save, human lives, animals that have been washed away, children have been affected, and you'll be quite amazed to see that starting from the army to the community to the students to the women's groups, everyone has come together, and they're all trying to they've all rushed to support the people there and to contain the effects of the flood. And I have to say that we also have had a lot of response from around the world, from from governments, from individual organizations and institutions that have all come forward to ask for to offer their support and help. We are hoping that we will be able to bring this under some sort of a control. However, it's not going to be easy. There is going to be a lot of devastation.
So Bangladesh has witnessed big changes socially and economically. What major announcements can we expect now from the new government?
I think you will need to wait a lot. There is a reform agenda, and you may be well aware that in the past years, our understanding of our economy had been so hinged on misinformation. We knew nothing about the GDP rates. Those were not truthful. We knew there was inflation, but we never knew the exact level that we were in. With no increase in real wage, dwindling foreign reserves, depreciation of our currency against the dollar. And presently, even you may say in the deathbed of, in the context of IMF bailout. And imagine that situation, and that was the situation we just living through. And right now, at this moment, there are plenty of reforms that are being talked about. And I think very soon, it's not time yet to give you any, make a large pronouncement. But I can tell you one thing, that basic fundamental changes are going to happen. And I think our core strength is our people. Let me give you an indicator. Even the last month, what was our remittance situation like? But in the past, this month, it's highest in the we've had the highest collection of remittance in the last 3 years compared to the last 3 years. And I see that as confidence that people show both towards this government, and also an indicator that shows that we are returning to a stabler ground, better ground. I would like to add that the credibility of our chief advisor is also a major factor. His acceptability both internationally, amongst governments, amongst institutions, and our people who are now so geared, so motivated toward rebuilding this country. I think this economy, is a proof that we are on the right track. And of course, no one said it's going to be easy, and I don't say it either. But I think that we are returning on strong grounds.
Sure, economy and growth must be government's top agenda. What is being done on that front for Bangladesh's future?
You do have some ideas. You're watching the fundamental changes that are happening to the banks. The management is changed. There's been so much corruption that they're tired of corruption. And that's not an easy task to eradicate. So a fundamental mandate of this government is to cleanse the system and to rebuild the institutions. And that means fighting corruption, finding people who will not toe party lines and destroy the system of governance. That has been a strong priority. And you will notice that these actions are taking place across the board. Never have we witnessed so many government officials being shifted out and transferred. So a lot of analysis is going on, and I believe there are going to be profound changes. And in terms of announcing the economic policies, well, you know about Professor Yunus's own economic worldview. You're aware of that. And I'd like to see some of that reflect in this government. His whole concept of social business. And for me, social business means compassionate business and not harsh, profit-making, exploitative conditions. So there are things that are going to be discussed. And I think eventually you will come to know as we move along, things will crystallize and we will have it more formulated. You do realize we have been here only 15 days. So give us a little longer and we'll give you a much more clear picture of where we are.
Ma'am, job creation and employment have been center of students' demands. What assurances have you all given them right now? Because that has been the burning question.
In fact, you know what? Again, I'll talk about this indicator. We're working very close to the young community. Right now, who is steering this nation? this young generation is steering this nation. And we as the elders are supporting them and helping them get prepared for their ultimate responsibility in nation building. And it's only a matter of time. Now, the quota demand, the quota movement did happen because of their fear that employment will be very hard if they have such high quota. But right now, these children are actually working very closely with us inside the government and outside the government. So the question of unemployment, everyone is aware of the employment condition, and everyone is also aware a 15-day government will not exactly change matters, but are we taking the right decisions and are we moving in the right direction? These are important issues. And as we rebuild, we will certainly rebuild that condition. And let me tell you one thing, we have a clear decision to engage this huge youth force that has been unleashed and that has inspired this country. This huge force is going to be utilized to rebuild that. And we will, as Professor Yunus says, we are not interested in creating a lot of job seekers. We are interested in creating entrepreneurs. And inshallah, these young people will, join that movement from the streets to rebuilding the nation and in building young entrepreneurs. We want to see the young talents, the potentials of these young people be used in a creative way, and so that they may develop into, very creative individuals. So let's see where all that goes. We are all aware of the unemployment situation, but everyone is also aware that we have to take on we have to wait, we have to develop the process and the system before we can talk about, addressing the situation of unemployment.
Right. We would also like to know what steps are being taken to reach out to the various ethnic groups and minorities in Bangladesh to make them feel safe and secure right now.
Number one, the insecurity of vulnerable groups, and you call them minorities if you like, but we have shifted from that language. This government is not only, changing, we are making fundamental philosophical changes. For example, we do not want to refer to anybody as a minority. As Professor Yunus has said, we are one family, and that's what we are working towards. The violence that took place amongst in specific categories have been because of the political turmoil. It was never because of communalism. And I think this is where our Indian media needs to come to Bangladesh and needs to look at this. For example, look at what happens. There are certain categories of communities that belong to certain political parties. Now, the regime that has just been, upset, the regime that has, has been dethroned, the Awami League, a large portion of the so-called minority, as you call them, actually have the loyalty towards that political party. Mind you, in this change, in this shift, the Awami League, the violence that the Awami League perpetrated over its own people has caused certain backlash. And that backlash is against the Awami League as a party and its cadres who have systematically killed people. Now, in that frame, you must see it in that frame of reference, not in the frame of reference of minorities and Hindus. That's number one. And the second point I would like to make, even yesterday, even in this flood condition, our young people, our so-called even masjids, people from the masjid, have been protecting temples and communities. That doesn't mean that some lapses did not happen. I wouldn't say that. Some lapses happen. But you must understand that we are not a communal nation. It is politics that has used communalism to to create a division. And we will rectify that. We will not allow that to happen. And I would also like to take this opportunity to speak to my Indian audience to please be sensitive about this and remember that we in this region of South Asia, we have had a long history of communal struggles. Anything that happens in India affects us. If you are, if there is violence on Christians, if there's violence on Muslims, if there's violence on Tripurians or, Manipuris in your part of the world, in your country, then that has direct impact of insecurity in my country. So I think when you asked me about the future policies, I think the future policies must be much more compassionate, much more understanding, and much more sensitive. And we need to work together towards that.
Right. My last question right now is, and I quote Professor Yunus, the caretaker government is committed to ensure a transition to inclusive and pluralistic democracy and creating an environment for holding free and fair participatory elections. So is this transition sometime soon? What time are we looking at?
Like any transition, when you shift from one situation to another, it's a traumatic journey. And in that traumatic journey, we have to, one of the slogans of this whole movement has been reform, repair, rebuild. And we have to do certain fundamental work. The commissions have been totally politicized. The institutions have been totally politicized. The judiciary, much has already happened in the judiciary, and reforms are on its way. Timeline, I think the best thing that I can say to you is today, the whole country, the whole nation, except for a very small group, wants the country to reach a position of equanimity, of a certain degree of calm, and a certain degree of composure and establishment of law and order and the rule of law. And then, inshallah, we will, organize an election, free and fair, with the participation of everyone who wants to participate. And for that, I cannot indicate a timeline right now after 15 days of taking responsibility, but
Right.
we need to bear that in mind, and we need to be a little patient. We must be given a reasonable amount of time to address a wrong that had been committed over more than a decade. So that's what I would like to say.
On that note, thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time and speaking to NDTV for this special interview right now. Thank you so much.